Good afternoon. My colleagues and I remain squarely focused on
Warning. This video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest any capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all. Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy, Camel, and welcome to the week. Welcome to Monday. Today is going to be a little bit of a mixed bag, okay? I want to talk primarily on a few things. Number one, the turn. And we're going to talk about this a little bit, and then we're going to do the charts at the end as always and show you why I believe we are now at the turn. We've been talking about this for a long time, frankly, and for the last 2 weeks, we've been in the process of finding a low. We've been in the process of putting in a bottom, and I think the past couple of weeks, the cycle lows for both the stock market and for Bitcoin have taken slightly longer than they normally would. So I know it's worn a lot of people out. I know a lot of people have been frustrated, but I do believe we are now through that bottoming process and have started the turn. So from here, we're going to talk a little bit more again about how we're going to be looking to figure out whether we've got to bounce to a lower high where we have to exit the market or whether there are indeed new highs left here. Either way, the path of least resistance at the moment is to the upside. And whilst many people have gotten very, very frustrated with the kind of sideways bottoming process in the last couple of weeks, the reality is cycles are doing cycle things. I also want to spend one tab here on mentality, as I genuinely believe if you don't get this mentality issue sorted, then you are simply wasting your time being here, not just on this channel, but in markets in general. So I want to spend one tab talking about mentality, and then keeping in with this theme of Crack Pipe Mondays, we're going to have a little bit of speculation about what I think is coming for Bitcoin for the rest of the decade and why I still see this controlled demolition very much in play. And then, of course, as always, we'll get to some charts at the end and we'll show you the positions, we'll show you where I'm looking to add and that kind of thing, and why I believe the cycles have truly bottomed and the turn has begun. In the meantime, okay, make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. Make sure you follow along because we've been tracking this cycle low in real time, right? We've now got the cycle low, we've now got the position. So make sure you're subscribed and you follow along to see how these positions work out, right? If they're going to be in profit, don't you want to see that? Of course you do. So hit that subscribe button. Let's get into this, okay? The turn is coming. Now, check this out, okay? Nobody wanted to believe this a couple of weeks ago, and because we didn't get the typical V bottom, okay? Normally we see a cycle low, and it swings out in a V-like manner, okay? But what we actually got was a little bit more of a splat this time around, and during this splat, people got very, very upset, very, very concerned. They were very quick to draw conclusions and invalidate a cycle low without understanding what was going on here. But if I copy and paste this right here onto an S&P 500 chart, you can see not bad, right? Bottoms are a process, and so far it's taken a good few candles, but we should now be in that point where we have found the cycle lows. The cycles have bottomed, and as I was saying earlier, and we'll spend more time on this at the end, we should be about to see a big bounce of relief in the worst case scenario, and perhaps in the best case scenario, a big snap to new all-time highs. The same is true of Bitcoin. If we copy and paste this tweet onto Bitcoin, okay, right there on the cycle low, the turn is coming, so far gradually creeping up. Now what's really, really nice about this, particularly for Bitcoin, is last week we actually left the making of a weekly swing low whilst bouncing off of the 365-day moving average, a pristine setup for a weekly cycle low bottom. And it also noticed created a whole heap of bears that then started to target 73k and below. However, Bitcoin loves to do this thing where it heads right down towards the most logical level for a bounce and to find support, and then just doesn't make it there. Okay, it leaves everyone sitting here waiting for a perfect logical retest, but for some reason, Bitcoin just loves to not give people those entries. Now we've got a weekly swing in place, as I said so far. The cycle should have bottomed, the turn should be coming. I believe not only is the turn coming, but I believe the turn has started. And all it will take now, you realize, is a candle that closes this week above 91.2k, which, by the way, is about 4 or 5% higher from here, right? It's less than 5%. Which of course Bitcoin can do in its sleep, in a single candle. That's all it's going to take for us to then flip onto a weekly time frame and see that we have not only completed the weekly cycle low swing, but recovered the range, setting us up for a truly lockout rally, a truly monster double from the weekly cycle low. And again, people were very quick over the past couple of weeks to start to try to invalidate this weekly cycle low and double. People were very quick to say, well, this isn't in play anymore, this is wrong, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, okay, if we zoom a little bit out here, if that really is the weekly cycle low, wait, let's turn, this is messy. There we go. So we turn all these other cycles off. We've just got the weekly cycle low and double here. I know the yellow squiggle, we went deeper than I was anticipating. Okay, fair enough. But all it's going to take is one big green candle here. Okay, and this still is the base case. We found a weekly cycle low. We are looking for a double from that low. Now we will have to adjust the upside target down a bit, since the whole idea of this is we take the lowest low, which is about 78k, and times that by 2 to give us our target. So that means instead of going to 180k, the target is now much closer to 160k. But as ever, okay, weekly cycle low and double still very much in play. And notice how a bunch of people puked their position, invalidated this idea prematurely, didn't believe this was possible, and there's still scope for overperformance, because this whole premise we saw again in prior cycles, particularly in 2017, and the first few, as I've shown before, were 150% rallies off of the lows. Okay, this time around they're closer to 100, but in 2017 it was 150-ish%, and in the final 2 weekly cycles it was then 250% out of the weekly cycle low, and the final weekly cycle low, which left translates into the blow off top, was a 500% rally. So it is entirely possible there is scope for this current double to exceed 100%, and then for the final one to exceed whatever this one is. Okay, so perhaps we could say 150% from here to the upside is on the table, which would still land us at 180 plus K, a pullback, a shakeout into a weekly cycle low, and then if we can get the final one to left translate and blow off, perhaps as high as 300%, then nobody is really bullish enough here. Okay, so I stand with this until the market invalidates me. I stand with this, as I've been saying consistently, until the weekly cycle low fails. At this moment in time, it looks to me like it is setting up for a massive lockout rally to really, really, really slaughter every bear and doubter here, because that's what Bitcoin loves to do. It loves to convince people it's just got another 1K of downside and then we can bounce. And it loves to trap people into thinking, oh yeah, this is super bearish, time to dump the whole stack. And then in just a few candles, okay, like here, this is 3 weekly candles, and we went from 67 to 98,000 bucks. People have seemingly forgotten how quickly Bitcoin can do Bitcoin things. And the last thing I want to show you here is, despite the bearish sentiment, despite everything out there and all the naysayers and the doubters, if we take the 2017 fractal, which is currently extremely close to what we're doing this cycle, okay, and slap it on here, to me, this does not look impossible, okay? Sure, we deviated slightly to the downside here, but we've not tracked it one-to-one, as we're never going to. But would you really be surprised if something akin to this is coming here? I don't think so. I think this fits the profile of a major parabolic blow off top. I think this is more than reasonable to expect something like this, since the prior cycle was muted because the Fed tapered QE and started to move towards tighter monetary policy right here as we hit 69K. This time around, monetary policy is very, very different. This time around, okay, moving into next month, we're going to start to slow the rate of QT, which is akin to QE at the margin. As time goes on, we're probably going to see more and more liquidity enter this space. Something like this certainly could be on the cards. And the reality is most people simply cannot comprehend it. They simply don't have a hope of staying on trend, because to sit through something like this requires intense amounts of experience in the markets. Most people are simply not able to detach themselves and ride the trend until it becomes unreasonable to do so. You can see this by how many of your favorite influencers have been posting and spamming charts in every which direction for the past couple of weeks. I know uncertainty has been high. I myself have been uncertain, but we have been very consistent in having one system and sticking to it. I didn't start grabbing all manner of RSIs and other indicators and other metrics and trying to draw a conclusion, oh, this looks bearish and that look. No, we stuck to the system. The system has kept us in the trade, and something like this is still the base case until it becomes invalidated. So again, I suggest to you, many people here are quick to prematurely say that this thing's invalidated, but again, one weekly candle back to 91K, which by the way is a 4% move or a 5% move for the week. Okay, and that's it. It's on like Donkey Kong. This is the most probable outcome until proven otherwise. And again, many people are not going to believe this. Many people are certainly not going to be on board, and many people are going to continue to make the same mistakes over and over again, wherein they're going to buy crypto meme coins and altcoins, assuming that this is where we overperform in the altcoin market and alt season is coming. It is not, okay? This is where Bitcoin remains the king until we get to the top of this weekly cycle. So welcome to the week. Welcome to Monday. I hope that you have a chance at staying on this trend. Again, follow along, right? See how well we can capture this if the upside call is correct. As for the stock market cycles have now bottomed too. The stock market now has a chance to push us up and rally alongside Bitcoin and risk assets. Remember, each one of these crashes, the 2000, 2008, 2018, and 2020, the dot-com, the GFC, the taper tantrum, and the C19 era, all bottomed in March. Okay, just as we are leaving March, just as we seem to have the bottom coming in for the stock market right around here. Okay, as I've been saying over and over again, the turn is close. I believe the bottom process is in, and I now believe the path of least resistance is higher. And so don't allow your mentality, your fear state, prevent you from creating value. Most people don't actually want to do better, okay? Let's read Bob's tweet first, okay? He says it blows his mind how many people he meets who, after years in crypto, hold very little Bitcoin, if any, okay? All of their money in crypto is in altcoins and shiny projects. He says pretty much the only statement he can make is that if crypto has a future, Bitcoin will be the big winner. You can't say that for any other crypto asset. And this is why I believe it's important for each of us to make sure we focus our intention and energy on our own mindset. Most people need to have an uncomfortable conversation with themselves because most people don't actually want to do better. They only seek the thrill of a lottery win. They would rather stay exactly where they are than improve slowly over time. And the funny thing is, with a long enough time horizon, it's actually very difficult to fail. I'm going to show you a worked example of this in a moment, okay? 0 to millionaire in 2 weeks is near impossible to achieve, but 0 to millionaire in 10 years is actually near impossible to fail. With a well thought out plan, as again, I'll show you in a second, with focused mind, energy, and intention, it's very, very difficult to say, okay, I'm going to go slow, I'm going to do the basics correctly, I'm going to allow compound interest to work for me, I'm going to live within my means in the meantime. It's extremely hard to fail a goal if you have a decade-long time horizon. Either way, unless you die, you're going to be here in 10 years' time, okay? And the tortoise beats the hare in investing. Now, let me show you, because a lot of people push back and said, oh, how dare you, you know? How can you say it's near impossible to fail? All you would have to do is invest about $3,000 back here to acquire a Bitcoin, okay? And then hold it for the duration of the 4-year cycle. Again, not buying altcoins, not buying NFTs, not buying shiny new projects, okay? And this is assuming you don't DCA, you don't have any other kind of wealth, you don't buy gold, you don't trade the cycles on the way up to supplement your position. We just say 4-year cycle, we buy a Bitcoin down here at 3K. We then miss the top, the 69K top, by almost 40%, okay? And take some profit very, very late in the cycle. We reallocate it down here for around 3 Bitcoin acquired, which at the local highs turns your 3K into 300K. Okay, if there is indeed another double left in here, it turns it into about $500,000. Okay, we can then miss the top by another 30 or 40%, reacquire at 2026 in the bear market lows. And then 10 years later, okay, from just doing the basics right, assuming no DCAs, no additional asset accumulation, no additional trading of cycles, none of this stuff, okay? Just being humble and trading a 4-year cycle easily gets you to $1 million in a 10-year time frame. But notice how the mind says, no way. Notice how the mind says, nah, I can't be bothered to do the hard work. What do you mean 10 years, right? And again, it's because most people don't actually want to do better. Most of us carry trauma from our parents, and our parents have destroyed and damaged our subconscious mind. They didn't do it intentionally, okay? I'm sure your parents love you, just like mine love me. But the reality is, okay, most of them pass on faulty programming, and that programming leads you to be self-destructive. It leads you to be having a lack of self-worth and self-belief. Many of you cannot stop making the same mistakes over and over and over again. Many of you cannot stop reacting with emotion, fear, doubt, and self-harming. The question really is not what shiny project should you buy? How can you develop more skills as a trader to do better in the markets? The real question is, what did your parents do to you to make you believe that you're only worth self-harming and pointless gambling and speculation? Once you have that conversation with yourself, once you start to be one of these few people that says, actually, I am worth more. Actually, I am going to better my life. Actually, I don't mind waiting 10 years to live the rest of my life very comfortably. Once you have this internal conversation with yourself, you free your mind and your reality to go and do the things that you want to do. And again, it may all sound very hippy-dippy. It may all sound very crack pipe Monday. But coming up with a plan and staying on trend during these enormous blow-off top moves is much easier said than done. Everyone wants to be a contrarian until the price crashes 30%, and then you got to buy in the face of everyone telling you you're an idiot. It's very, very easy to say buy when there's blood in the streets and pretend you're Warren Buffett. But if you were Warren Buffett, you'd be a billionaire too, right? So again, have that conversation with yourself, okay? Don't waste the week this week FOMOing in and deciding how much extra leverage to apply and what shiny new altcoins to buy. Spend the week quietening your mind down and figuring out whether or not you can change your mindset to believe in something better for your future. As I kind of alluded to earlier, monetary policy was extremely different in the prior cycle, right? We got all the way to here, and then suddenly the Fed went from easing to tightening. And then we had all of this QT, and first of all, we slowed down QE, okay? We slowed down balance sheet expansion, as we always do, and eventually it morphs into proper QT, quantitative tightening. But the conditions this time around are actually quite different. The conditions this time around, we are moving from QT. The market has rallied in the face of QT. We're moving from QT now, okay, to slowing the pace of QT. And what will come after slowing the pace of QT is inevitably a pause entirely. Then eventually we get the crash, and that crash will probably likely occur from somewhere up here as we move down towards those 4-year cycle lows. And then out of that 4-year cycle low, it should be time to unleash the true QE bomb. It should be time for monetary policy, as Jordan is alluding to here, to finally align. This ball hasn't even begun to run and won't until monetary policy aligns. He says the top will be closer to 2028 halving than the 2024. And what's really interesting is Jordan is excellent in terms of following the Fed and liquidity. Jordan is excellent at following the monetary policy and understanding its impact on driving market cycles. But when I read this, I had to comment on this for the simple reason that this monetary policy also aligns perfectly with the cycle theory. I said it makes a lot of sense for left translation in cycle 5. At the time I was away from my computer, I couldn't really do anything about it, but I want to show you exactly what the cycles are suggesting here and how it aligns with Jordan's idea of monetary policy, seeing us have a top much closer to the 2028 halving. So if I go here, okay, now, anyone that knows cycle theory knows how it works. In a bullish cycle, we see 1 right trans, 2 right trans, 3 right trans, and then the 4th one is expected to left translate and have an extended bear market. However, Bitcoin invalidated this in November, as I'm sure everyone is well aware. So what does cycle theory tell us will happen? Well, it tells us if this happens and we get right translation in cycle 4, then cycle 5 is expected to left translate instead, which means we would go 1 right trans, 2 right trans, 3 right trans, 4 right trans, followed by cycle 5 left translating and extending into that bear market decline. So that tells us on a balance of probabilities, okay, if this cycle is going to continue to do what it's been doing this whole time, which apparently is nothing different to any of the prior cycles, if monetary policy is going to continue to push towards easing rather than tightening over the coming weeks and months, then my whole weekly cycle low and double idea may well be in play. We may well end up getting this ultra right translated cycle, convincing the whole market that nothing is ever different, okay? It was always going to be this way. It was never going to be any different, okay? Then we get that 12-month bear market decline, but think about it like this. During this decline, we see the big crash into that major 4-year cycle low. That's where you get the QE come in. That's where Jordan's idea of monetary policy finally starting to align comes into play. Okay, it is at the 4-year cycle low that we see the printer go burr after everything has come tumbling down. And then at this point in time, we finally get that left translated blow off top. We get every man and his dog say, we know how to handle the QE trade because we've seen it a bunch of times before. We know how to handle the QE bomb. We all in Bitcoin. And that's how you get this huge blow off top to an obscene number that then takes 3 years to correct and reset the larger order degree cycle. Of course, if this is to happen, we get a top much, much, much closer to 2027, 2028, okay? And then spend the remainder of the 4-year cycle in a bear market decline, which again fits with this idea that Jordan's liquidity drivers will see a top closer to 2028 than the 2024 halving. And when all of this happens, remember, there'll be a couple of factors at play. Number one, the front running will make a lot of sense because by here we have seen 1, 2, 3, and 4 perfectly normal and to be expected right translated cycles, meaning your average market participant will start to front run this harder than ever before. It will also mean, number two, that the monetary policy aligns to actually see the QE drive this asset price to infinity and beyond as a function of fiat currency debasement. And on top of all of that, we know if we get 3 right translated cycles, the 4th is expected to left translate. But where it does not left translate, as this has already proven to be the case, then we expect the left translation in cycle 5. So on a balance of probabilities, this is exactly what we're going to see. Fits from a cycle perspective, fits from monetary policy perspective, it fits from the investor psychology wanting to front run this halving cycle again. And again, if you can just alter your mind to believe in something, to believe in more, okay, if we can even get marginally higher up here and then get back in marginally towards the 4-year cycle low, if something like this is even on the table remotely, if this is even remotely probable that it can occur, then we can all change our lives permanently by capturing this. But the question is, can you love yourself enough to stop self-harming with meme coinery and altcoins and thinking that Bitcoin is boring? This whole idea also aligns very, very nicely with the idea of the reset, okay? The total collapse of fiat currencies after a QE bomb, and having to use this whole controlled demolition idea of mine as the excuse to usher in the CBDCs and reset the system. And this is where I want to end before we do some TA, okay? I watched The Big Short again last night. It's aged well. There will be a sequel. Just don't know when and what the plot will be in detail. But anyone that is a channel OG knows, okay? My very first video, I made a video and I said, as a trader, I have a unique perspective on this global reset. I think I know what's coming. This is why I'm creating a channel, because I want to warn people of what's coming. I think we're going to have a blow off top. I think we're going to have a huge bear market, a global recession, deflation, and ultimately they're going to use this as an excuse to usher in CBDCs. And this is why I think that this controlled demolition is still very much in play. I've been saying the same things. It's the only reason I have a YouTube channel in the first place. You can go back and see that very first video I ever posted. And this is what I suggest to you will be the storyline for the sequel to The Big Short. It will be a team of internet crypto bros figure out the Fed is orchestrating a controlled demolition via keeping the interest rates too high and lying about the unemployment data. They are doing so they can crash the global markets and the world economy to usher in the CBDCs. Now, the crypto bros are going to profit from the fall because they understand the CBDCs and the necessity to have a controlled demolition to usher them in. They also understand the blockchain technology and we're able to spot them in advance. But they will also profit more from the printing that follows while the rest of the world is stuck in a global stagflation, because only the crypto bros and the elite understand that Bitcoin is the exit. This is what I term to be the Big Short 2.0, the transfer of trillions and the digital prism. And again, it all fits with all of this, right? Those that understand the money can see what's coming, okay? The switching from QT to eventually QE, we can see this in the charts, okay? Remember that old saying of mine that I say all the time, cycles are in control and everything else is narrative. Well, this is what the cycles say. The cycles are in control, everything else is narrative, and you best believe no one's going to believe me when I say left translation in cycle 5, because to this day, they still haven't gotten over the fact I was wrong about saying left translation in cycle 4, okay? They thought I was just trying to be different for no reason. They don't understand cycle theory. And again, this lends into having a left translated cycle 5. It lends into having everyone wrecked. And it lends into Bitcoin still being the only exit here. This is the exit to the matrix, okay? This and gold. Gold will do something very similar, I think, as well. And this is your exit. Bitcoin and gold are the only exits. And at the end of this decade, this is where we end up with the have-yots and the have-nots. Once more, okay, the transfer of trillions and the digital prison. Now, let's lighten the mood a little bit, okay? I didn't mean for this to be doom and gloom. I actually am quite excited, not because I want the world to burn or because I want CBDCs or because I even know for a fact I'll be immune, but I'm just excited because as a trader, I think we got the read. I think we've had the read for a long time, and I think that we're going to be able to stay on the right side of this trade, no problem. And as somebody that seeks to be the master of this craft, then all of this is kind of a pretty nice opportunity for me to demonstrate my skill set as well as test myself, okay, to make sure that I can continue to experience the trial by fire. Let's get rid of this turn tweet and focus on the charts. For now, again, the cycle lows are in, according to me. I expect a minimum of a couple of weeks of relief bounce here, and then we can start to really consider any downside if it's on the table. Okay, if it is, then that suggests this really was the weekly cycle. I wasn't premature in calling it, and we really have to start being defensive. If, however, we do not resolve to a lower high, and we have indeed got more gas left in this goose, and we're going to go to new all-time highs, and this for me becomes the final exit pump. This for me becomes the line in the sand where we break down. I think we have to be super, super defensive. And if this is the case, then we know that this really was the weekly cycle and my original call here was incorrect and premature. Nobody knows, okay? I know a lot of people think they do. A lot of people want to convince you they do. Nobody knows. One day at a time as always. But for now, we're long, we're strong, and we're going to see what the market will give there. For the likes of gold, gold continues to march higher and higher and higher. I was talking about this continuing for a while in the face of a bunch of top callers that are no doubt going to show up. But to be honest, we don't care about them. We're going to keep doing us and capturing this via silver and miners et al. Bitcoin, okay, slowly but surely working on that weekly cycle low and double, isn't it? Okay, very, very quickly going to start to lock people out if I am correct in my assessment, which I believe that I am. Just a few $100 away now from confirming a true breakout. The long position is on. We're going to continue to add to this in the level 3 member section via the crypto related equities to extract even more alpha out of this. We've even got a position in MicroStrategy of all things, okay? So again, demonstrating once more, no bias, no emotion, okay? We simply trade the system and see what the market will give. And of course, the big thing for me is, can we get a touch of resistance before then a resumption of tell that to the bond market? This, of course, will start to force the Fed to cut rates. And again, we'll be providing additional liquidity to help drive this blow off top. So absolutely wild time to be alive. Absolutely fantastic place in this timeline. Really glad to be sharing it with you guys. Please do subscribe, follow along, and we'll continue to hit these trades in front of everybody. I'm your boy Camel. Welcome to the week. Welcome to Monday. I hope you're doing well in life. And until next time, take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.
Camel Finance, he's the man to see. Rocking the markets with his contrarian spree. Trades like a pro, no fear, no shame. Sticking to his guns in his money game. He's a badass, oh yes indeed. Camel Finance got the markets key. Taking us normies on a bump.